Are you ready to be unleashed and unstoppable?
You're successful and stuck. Where are you burned out and standing in your own way? Are you ready to make your finances and your whole life work?
Are you ready to experience a breakthrough and step into your next level of leadership?
Living a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms, unapologetically.
You are where you are because of the way that you think. You are the creator of your reality. You are the creator of your thoughts.
This podcast is about discovering how to play big, how to be unleashed and unstoppable.
Through wiring in your success at the source as you step into your full potential as a wildly ambitious leader.
We are Alex Leanne Carter, founder and CEO of Ambition Unleashed, and Carol Register, founder and CEO of Success Uniquely Yours.
Let's get unleashed and unstoppable. Hey, wildly ambitious leader. Welcome back to another episode of Unleashed and Unstoppable. I'm really excited to dive into today's topic because when we look at the number one thing that really holds a high achiever back from being unleashed and unstoppable, it is fear. Yep, that's right, fear. False evidence appearing real. Carol and I are so excited to dive into what is fear, how does it happen with our brain, and what do we do to be able to shift so that we can overcome the fears that really do stand in our way and hold us back, keeping us from creating the life and business and dreams that we truly know that we deeply desire.
Yeah, fear is huge, right? We can feel it in the atmosphere around us in certain situations. Maybe you're listening to the news and you're getting a full-on dose of it. Maybe you're in an environment where you sense the heightened state of anxiety that people are in. And there's a lot of that in the world right now. We're all pretty stressed out, you could say, unless you have the tools to know that it doesn't have to be that way. Doesn't have to stay that way. And I think that really is something that's super important. What the brain is doing when we are feeling fear, it is basically hijacked. And it's our amygdala that are activated. We're flooded with neurochemicals. And these are when we go into that lizard brain state of the brain keeping us safe. We talk about that a lot in here, because it is the way that our brains are designed to operate. And then when you take it into the fear mode, you're taking it even on a whole other level because you're in this state of flight and with some people freeze. And when you're in that state, you're not in a place where you're thinking logically. You're not in a place where you can reason well. And it's really important to lean in and to know that and to acknowledge that what you're feeling is valid. And it is something that needs to be acknowledged. Once it's acknowledged, once you know what's going on, then you can deal with it.
And acknowledging that, right? Again, going back to this acknowledgement piece is just actually acknowledging that to be able to identify that that's actually what's happening. And so like Carol said, because you experience this fear and your brain gets hijacked, you are shifting from your thinking part of your brain, which is the upstairs part of your brain, and you end up in this downstairs part where you're not able to access logic. So you're just going to become reactive, and your body and your reactions are going to be reactive based on how you are feeling. And for some people, you're going to get into a fighting stance, and some people you're going to flight. And some people are going to freeze. Some people are going to even hurt the faint, especially as you are experiencing emotion, because that's what fear does. Fear is going to release emotion in your body. And so you might experience this anxiety. I know for myself, sometimes I experience this flush of like blood reach to my head. And you do have this loss of control and this loss of sense of control. For a high achiever, that is uncomfortable because you don't like to feel like you're not in control. And so at any point in time where you feel like you might be in a position of fear, whether it be a fear of maybe it's judgment and criticism and rejection, your brain's going to keep you safe and keep you right where you are so that you don't feel that. This is about feeling. our thoughts and our emotions together then create these beliefs. And from that belief system or operating system, we're going to take decisions and then take action and create results. We look backwards by the results you're creating and the actions that you're taking or not taking, the decisions that you're making, not making. A lot of this is going to stem from these fears: fear of being seen, fear of being found out, fear of being an imposter, all of these fears. And I know, Carol, you and I could probably go on, I'll say forever, but there's a lot of fears that high achievers will experience. And like I said at the beginning, it's really false evidence appearing real.
Yeah. And I think it's so important that you bring out that false evidence appearing real. That's right. Fear. And the reason that we're saying it's false is because everything is a thought. Everything is a thought. Starts with a thought. And those thoughts of fear that flood us, and then we have that bodily reaction. I think that's another very important piece. It's something to know exactly how to interrupt that pattern and moving out of the fear and into a place where you can then reason and think clearly and act with intention and not be reacting, but be able to be proactive and to be able to reason well. I don't know about you. I've certainly found myself in a state of fear where that monkey brain, that lizard brain that was wanting to keep me safe took over. And all I could think was strong emotion, sadness and anger combined. And I was not able to make a clear or good decision or even communicate well at that stage. The power of what we are sharing with you on the way for you to become unleashed and unstoppable is when you know what's going on, when you can recognize it, then you can pattern interrupt and you can reverse the process. It doesn't happen instantly, but it will begin to happen for you faster and faster. That part is so important to lean into. One of the last times that I was in this state, something had triggered me that I didn't expect. And it hit me really hard. And I was like, how did I create this? How did this come up? And there I was, flooded with all of those neurochemicals and emotions. And my brain was literally hijacked. And I remember I sat with the person sitting next to me and I said, can you just give me a moment? Can you give me maybe 10 minutes? Because I knew that I was not where I needed to be, but that the process could be interrupted. It could be paused and it could be shifted so that I could be proactive again. And you can too.
And you talked there about that trigger, and that's exactly what's happening. When you are triggered by something, your brain is making a connection to something that happened in the past. And so whether it's a feeling, whether it's an experience, but there's something being triggered that is making a connection to a past experience that you are kind of re-experiencing again. And because your brain is wired to keep you in the safe and familiar, at any point in time where your brain is seeing something as a threat or something that's not going to keep you safe, it's going to trigger this fear to get you to shut down so that you stay where you are. And that's why having done the work that we've done, Carol, and understanding more how our brains work and how our brains are wired and understanding the role that fear plays. Fear is really a way of communicating to you that you are, well, you're stretching yourself. And it's actually a way to acknowledge that you are human, that you are living, that you are processing, that you're thinking, and that you are aware. Because it's your brain's way of communicating that to you, that you actually have a conscious mind and you are thinking and that you are actually operating as a normal human being. We do like to talk about the importance of celebrating as a high achiever and even just celebrating any fear or any resistance. We're going to talk about resistance in an upcoming episode here in a few weeks, but just like acknowledging that and celebrating and seeing it, that the fear is your brain's way of communicating to you. And what we really like to do with our clients is uncover what's underneath the fear. what is causing the fear? I listed a bunch of things a few minutes ago, again, about this fear of judgment and criticism and being found out and anything that would impede on maybe the way that you see yourself. And we speak into identity and about who you are and the way people see you, especially when you really are driven a lot of times by your identity and your achievements. Anything that could cause that, you find yourself in loops of procrastination or perfectionism, because if it's not perfect, well, what will that mean about you? And I mean, I know that you and I, Carol, can go on forever, like in these different avenues of the questioning with your brain, but just being able to acknowledge right away that when you're experiencing this fear, that it really is false evidence appearing real. And so it's to acknowledge that in that moment, like it feels real. It really does feel real, and it doesn't need to last.
Yes, it doesn't have to last. It can be interrupted and shifted and recognized as that it's an illusion. It's appearing real, but isn't necessarily real. And of course, we're not speaking into legitimate cases where the brain is activated, the needing to go lift the car up with the adrenaline story. You may have heard that. We're really speaking about that daily onslaught of fear that happens as we go to take action and to play big and to be unleashed and unstoppable. And one of the things that is a part of this process in terms of the brain wanting to keep us safe is we also have a desire for certainty. And it's fear of the unknown, fear of the uncertain that can really stop us. And you've probably heard of analysis paralysis. You really go into trying to cover all the angles and think of all the outcomes, especially as a high achiever, because you're intelligent, you're used to making big decisions, and you really want to do your due diligence. So you just take it out to its nth degree to the point that you don't take action. You're stuck in the fear.
So one action step that we'd like to share with you today is we like to talk about questions because questions really do support you. Now, you're experiencing the fear because you feel like something bad is going to happen. So my question to you to ask yourself today, when you feel the fear, definitely start with, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? What is causing the fear? What is the fear that you have is going to happen? And then pivot and shift it and ask yourself, what's the best thing that can happen? Because our brains are wired to always look at the negativity bias of, again, the worst thing that can happen. That's why we experience fear. It's not automated to think about the best outcome. And so that's where the fear appears. And that's how you find yourself going down this whole rabbit hole of all the worst things that can happen. And it's still important to go through that and then to reframe and to look at the best thing that can happen. And when you're looking at the false evidence appearing real, it's also to take a look at evidence where good things are going to happen. Because that's what's, it's powerful because your brain's already looking for evidence, but your brain is shifting to past evidence of the negative things that happened. And you get to consciously reframe to a positive outcome and then find evidence for your brain to support that shift that supports the positive outcome and where you didn't get judged, where you didn't get criticized, where it worked out. You created what it is that you want to create. So being able to, as a high achiever, to build that muscle, because it's a conscious muscle that gets to be built, I think is super important. And I think is a great invitation for you as the listener to really start to be consciously aware of that and what's happening, and then support yourself by asking yourself, what is honestly the best outcome? What is the best thing that can happen?
Yes, I love those questions. And as we wrap this up, we're going to be doing a part 2 on this. So we're leaving you hanging on purpose a little bit here. And the reason for that is because there's so much depth that we want to cover in moving into being fearless. And that certainty piece is so powerful and important that, again, it's another process of where we can be hijacked by the brain and asking those questions. What's the worst thing that can happen? What's the best thing that can happen? And I'll even add, you can ask yourself simple, what if? When you're feeling super scared in the moment, ask yourself, what if good things happened? But we're really excited to bring to you the talk, the part 2 about becoming fearless. And I think we were ready to wrap up here right now. We're so excited to have been with you today. Please subscribe. We want you to be unleashed and unstoppable and get every single episode that we bring to you. And you can do that by subscribing, and it really helps us. So we love and appreciate your support. And you can reach us, for me, on socials at Success Uniquely Yours on Facebook, Carol Register on LinkedIn, Carol Register 9 on Twitter. And Alex Leanne, where can we reach you?
You can find me on Instagram at alex.leanne.carter and inside of Productivity Secrets of High Performing Female Leaders.
All right. We can't wait to talk to you next round. Look forward to becoming fearless. See you then. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alex Leanne Carter and Carol Register. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.